A very good afternoon by now. It's a sunny day here in London, right here at Southwark Crown Court again, and the court is in progress. Week number 14 of the Bribery trial involving former Nigerian Minister of Petroleum, Diezani Alison Madueke. Two others, our brother is one of them, and the third defendant, known in court as D3, is Olatimbo Ayinde. Right, let me start by first reading to you one of the questions, one of the under cross-examination. Remember, on Monday of last week, that is week beginning 20th, exactly a week ago, the Crown prosecutor started cross-examining Diezani. The whole of week 12, that was a fortnight ago, her defense lawyer, Jonathan Lidlaw, was in charge. She was leading her in evidence in the witness box. That was Monday through Friday. So last week, week number 13, Diezani spent 4 days in the witness box. That's a long time. One of the longest times you're ever going to see anybody spending in the witness box. 9 days on the trot, the whole of week 12, the whole of week number 13. On Friday, on Thursday, when the judge, was adjourning, a lot of crowd, public tourists. On Thursday, when the judge was adjourning for Friday, we didn't know that there was going to be no sitting on Friday. But I can't tell you the reason there was no sitting on Friday. As they say in life happened. Life happened between Thursday and Friday, and there was no sitting on Friday. So otherwise, Diezani will have been in the witness box. Of course, she was there in court, a support group, the lawyers themselves, the NCA officials, the Crown prosecutor, everybody had to go home because there was something that happened which I'm not allowed to say to you now. Probably at the end of the trial, you can be hearing that, but there was no sitting on Friday. But Monday through Thursday, all of last week, Diezani was in the witness box. And I must tell you, some tough times were there. I've always compared this trial, because it's a marathon, to the London Marathon. Yesterday was the London Marathon, and if you watch it, you will have seen how it ended. But now that the marathon is over, I'm going to be comparing this trial, this ongoing trial, to a boxing match. I'm going to say that last week, under cross-examination, Diezani took a lot of punches. If I'm going to put it that way, in boxing time, she took a lot of punches on. She parried very well. In boxing, the first rule is defend yourself at all times. She defended herself, and then let me say there was a time what seemed like a low blow, when the prosecutor said, look, I'm not going to condescend. I'm not going to descend to the level of answering questions from you. I thought that was a low blow, because sometimes when she asked questions, the same question that the Crown prosecutor used when they had the floor at the beginning of this trial, some of those questions come back. Remember, the devil is in the detail. Many times they will ask her about flight, about receipt, Harrod purchases, Vincento Caffarella purchases, construction work being done, gardening work being done in those properties which they are accusing her of using for her benefit. And then sometimes she will just give the same explanation, the same framework. The Crown will go over it again and say, were you using this? Were you doing this? And she said, look, as I've explained, she'll face the jurors and then explain. And sometimes she faced the prosecutor herself. There were times that she told the prosecutor herself that this is getting into the realm of speculation. So it was like a pound for pound match, and this match, this boxing, this trial, let's look at it as a boxing match going 12 rounds. It seems we are somewhere in round 8 now. So it was tough. And I must say this, even if a rookie lawyer is put on the spot to be the prosecutor, they're not going to make your life easy. So Diezani, that she took quite some punches, that she took some blows last week. That is just it. Anybody who is prosecuting, they will make your life difficult. And like I said, many of the questions, but the devil is in the detail. Let me read one of the questions that the Crown asked her. There was a flight of 12th of December 2012. The Crown prosecutor, she referred to, cited their passport schedule and said, look, was Mr. Alan Fox. She said, you made a trip to the UK. This was 12th of December 2012. She then asked Diezani, was Mr. Aluko paying for you? Diezani replied, I have no idea. I really don't know. She cited many things. Sometimes it would be the Harrod. So there was one time that she was asked, what sort of gift do you give your family member, your sisters? Because she asked her, just like a defense lawyer, the Crown too was asking, setting the ground again, asking, okay, how many are you in your family? Diezani mentioned the number of sisters she had, and a brother, of course, and two brothers. And then the Crown was asking at one time, what sort of things do you give your sisters during Christmas? Diezani said underwear. Quite funny. So there were loads of chess sort of games, just like in boxing, you just jab, 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 she gave back. So she took, like I said, she took some heavy punches then, but like in boxing, defend yourself at all times. Of course, she defended herself. She was answering, some of the questions look very uncomfortable, but she will give her explanation. She gave her explanation. At one time, they were asking her, okay, you stayed at the falls for 2 weeks, for a long time. And then she said, look, this was because you were working on a book, Champion of Women, which former President Goodluck Jonathan commissioned. So those questions, they brought it up, receipt of chauffeur driven cars, and then went back also to her son, to her ex-husband, asking all these questions. In subsequent broadcasts, I'll be able to give you the exact days when these were asking them. In one instance also, she cited, the prosecutor cited items taken, that took place, that shopping that she did at Peter Jones. Would you have asked Mr. Momo? Okay, this was the prosecution asking her. She did one of the shopping that was cited was the shopping she did at Peter Jones. She asked her, will you have asked Mr. Momo and the other person sorting out, your payment to make this payment? She said, very likely. So these questions, remember, this is a trial that has taken more than 10 years to come to court. So the prosecution, they have a lot of, ammunition. And remember, at the beginning, the judge had told them, it is for you, the prosecution, to prove your case. She said the defendant do not have to do anything. They don't have to prove that they are guilty or they did what they did, this bribery allegation. She said it is for you, the Crown, to prove your case. And don't forget, the Crown is like, making a showboating to say, look, we are going to prove our case. So that is what they have said to do. The court is in progress. Now, this is the beginning of week number 14. So this will be the third week for cross-examination. No, that Diezani will be in the box. Remember, all of last week she was being cross-examined, and like I mentioned, Friday, life happened. There was no sitting, but Monday through Thursday of last week, it was her in the witness box, being battered, being punched, But like I said, in boxing, defend yourself at all times. She was defending herself. She gave explanations. Sometimes she faced the jurors. Remember also, in boxing, it is the judges. It is, if you don't get a technical knockout, the scorecard, we go to the scorecard. So many times she will face the jurors to make her explanation. And in boxing, it is what catches the eye of the judges, except, a boxer wins outrightly by technical knockout. There is nothing like that here in a trial. So each of them, Diezani will face the jurors at times, explain to them in Nigeria, in our culture, you don't buy things for yourself alone. You buy for traditional rulers, you buy for community leaders. She cited instance where she brought art from Nigeria. She said, I sponsor art, so I buy things for orphanages. So while the prosecution was bringing out all the receipts, sometimes, they brought out receipts that we found this in your storage, we found this receipt, they can be cross-matched to the items found in your property. And she said, look, as I've said before, she mentioned that word many times, as I've said before, when we do shopping, when Kola Loco or Mr. Judy Omokore, when they bought things, there's a system in place for the NNPC to reimburse them. So she will go over, the prosecutor will come from another angle. I'm going to be reading to you probably by tomorrow many of the emails, but like I've mentioned one to you, the one of the shopping of 12th of December 2012, when she said she was coming on official trip. Most times from what we saw from last week under cross-examination, many times when Diezani was in London, she did shopping. And the prosecution was asking her, for somebody who is busy, it seems whenever you are here in London, in the UK, or sometimes when you've gone for OPEC meeting, you are doing shopping. She said she had also explained, said that is her own way. Shopping is her thing. That is how she uses it. She used shopping to distress. So the prosecution kept hammering. Remember, it is to catch the attention of the jurors. Keep hammering, all right? Somebody who is busy, you are in Austria, you came to the UK, you did shopping, and you had Mr. Aloko with you, or you had Momo, Prince Momo, be with you making payments. So these questions were coming. It's like punches coming from all angles. But again, like a good boxer, Diezani was defending herself at all times. So cross-examination is in progress. I just had to give you update on how last week panned out. So this from today will be the beginning of the third week that Diezani will be spending in the witness box. And don't forget, the devil is in the detail. This is a trial that has taken more than 10 years to come. And the prosecution, they have all the ammunition. National Crime Agency officials, they are here watching. At least two of them are always in court. Those who did the investigation, two of them were in Lagos, in Abuja, for when the investigation was going on. During the cross-examination, there was a list that was presented that was to say this was items that the EFCC inventory that they did in her house. Diezani was asked, to make comments. She said, look, EFCC, I wasn't there when they did this inventory. So I cannot say, and not only that, even the NCA officers, they didn't see this inventory, so that I cannot say this is what they took from my house, and you are just showing this. Why don't you show us the other things? So these were some of the ways she was defending herself, and many times she will say, I have no idea. And sometimes she will say, look, you are asking me questions, specific things in 2013 or 2012. This is 2026. I cannot remember. So those are the times she will tell the prosecutor, you are going into the realm of speculation. And remember, she had told the court that the sort of cancer she had, the aggressive triple negative cancer, after the treatment, it affected her, that she's even standing here, standing. Anytime the court is in progress, during the evidence, she's always stood on her feet. It's only during breaks that she sit down. So it's really incredible for somebody going 66 who had undergone cancer treatment. But the prosecution doesn't care about that. They're just battering and throwing the questions. So after the cross-examination, the lawyer will come back to do re-examination. So I'll be able to give you, if the Crown finishes a cross-examination today, or probably during this morning session, afternoon session, the defense lawyer will go back to do re-examination. But that she took punches last week, she took heavy battering last week, that is just the fact, And like I said, she defended herself, she gave back. Sometimes she tell the prosecutor, you are going into speculation. You are going into the realm of speculation, but doesn't care. They just keep battering, they just keep throwing the punches to see which one catches the eye of the judges. Remember, the judges are the 12 jurors. It is not in the hand of the judge, presiding judge. The judge at the end of the day is going to give them direction. But the people scoring the fight, as it were, the people scoring this trial, they are the jurors, 12 men here, men and women. They are the ones who are the judges, like in a boxing match. So everybody, both the defense, both Diezani and the Crown, all they are doing, not only that, making your story believable to the jurors, because their faith, the faith of Diezani, as it were, hangs in the hand of 12 men and women who are the jurors for this trial. So this is week number 14, and this fight, this trial definitely will go beyond this month of April. Remember, we started on January 26th, and we are going, and that's why I said it's a marathon. But yesterday was London Marathon. Now we go into the realm of boxing. So I'm going to be comparing this trial, the remainder of this trial, to a boxing match. So I hope that gets. And remember, even in a boxing, even when you win, you see the face of the champion. It's got pulse. Somebody might win a fight, but you see the face doesn't come out smoothly. So that is what has been happening to Diezani. Like I said, took a lot of punches last week. And then let's see how she copes this week. I'll see you next time.